This was not the inauguration Hillary Clinton thought she would be attending. Some Democrats, still bitter about her election night defeat, grumbled privately that she should have skipped Donald J. Trump's swearing-in, as 60 House Democrats did on Friday. But a groundswell of supporters praised her fortitude. There she was, in the bookend of a political career that spanned from First Lady to Senator to Secretary of State, watching as her former Republican opponent was inaugurated as the 45th president. Mrs. Clinton was not required to accompany former President Bill Clinton and other former presidents and dignitaries to the ceremony. But after taking a deep breath backstage, she strode on stage with a practiced smile, wearing a Ralph Lauren coat and pants, all in white, a tribute to the suffragists that she had similarly made at times during her presidential campaign. She greeted allies and adversaries, embraced former First Ladies, got a thumbs up from former President George W. Bush, and exchanged a warm hello with her old boss, President Barack Obama, all while appearing impervious to the scattered chants of "lock her up," coming from the crowd. Photo. Mrs. Clinton with former Presidents Bill Clinton and George W. Bush and Laura Bush at the inaugural ceremony on Friday. At one point during the day, Mr. Bush gave Mrs. Clinton a thumbs up. Credit Doug Mills / The New York Times. Mrs. Clinton's resolve to attend the event drew admiration from some who know her. It speaks to the depth of her character, her patriotism, and her broader faith that often got lost in the campaign and was so often undernoticed, said Christine C. Quinn, a former New York City Council speaker and mayoral candidate in town for the Women's March on Saturday. Continue reading the main story. The Trump White House. Stories on the presidential transition and the forthcoming Trump administration. On Friday morning, Mrs. Clinton wrote on Twitter, "I'm here today to honor our democracy and its enduring values. I will never stop believing in our country and its values." Mr. Trump and Mrs. Clinton did not shake hands at the swearing-in, but after the inauguration, the Clintons attended a luncheon in the Capitol, where the new president said he was very honored that the former first couple was there and asked them to stand for a round of applause. The Clintons, who sat at a well-positioned table with Mr. Trump's daughter Tiffany, and others close to the new president, rose from their seats with tight grins. "There's nothing more I can say because I have a lot of respect for those two people, so thank you all for being here," Mr. Trump said. Aside from the occasional appearance at a Broadway show or walk in the woods around her home in Chappaqua, NY, Mrs. Clinton has kept a low profile since her election loss in November. As her husband and daughter, Chelsea Clinton, dive into their efforts at the Clinton Foundation, Mrs. Clinton has given no signal about what she will do next. "She's just not there yet," said a friend who talked to her recently. Asked how she's doing, Mrs. Clinton has told friends that she is surviving, said several people who have spoken with her but would describe the content of the private conversations only on the condition of anonymity. Mrs. Clinton has pointed to the decision by the FBI Director, James B. Comey, to release a letter related to her private email server days before the election and to the Russian government's cyber attacks on Democratic targets as the reasons for her defeat. In December, at an event in Manhattan to thank her top donors, Mrs. Clinton said the hacking attacks carried out by Russia were intended to undermine our democracy and were ordered by President Vladimir V. Putin because he has a personal beef against me. Just as her candidacy divided many women, Mrs. Clinton's attendance at the inauguration prompted mixed reactions. To some, Her presence was a reminder of the missteps of Mrs. Clinton's campaign in a race that many Democrats considered hers to lose. Half a dozen elected officials who campaigned aggressively for Mrs. Clinton declined to comment when asked about her attendance on Friday. On Thursday, the Women's March on Washington, expected to draw roughly 200,000 women, put out a list of over 24 honorees, including Shirley Chisholm, Gloria Steinem, and Malala Yousafzai. One name not included: Hillary Clinton. Even for women who were die-hard supporters, they want to know when she's gonna decide not to attend the inauguration of a man who disrespected her and millions of women across the country, said a post on social media by Linda Sarsour, an activist and a CO chairwoman of the Women's March who supported Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont in the Democratic primary. The decision not to honor Mrs. Clinton, who is not expected to attend the march, spurred a backlash. Supporters noted that the event's official rallying cry, "Women's rights are human rights," originated with Mrs. Clinton's 1995 speech at the United Nations Fourth World Congress in Beijing. Other major moments in Mrs. Clinton's career were marked not by her own forceful declarations, but rather by her ability to withstand painful public humiliations and defeats. "Everyone would have understood if she stayed home," said Jennifer Palmieri, a former senior campaign aide to Mrs. Clinton. "But that's not how she's built.